have a feeling that it's going to be at least a fun subplot throughout this coming season to try to gauge what it is that Sidney Crosby thinks about, everything that's happening around him. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates that I hope you'll check out. Penguins versus Sabres is tonight. That's the preseason finale, a 7:08 p.m. face-off at PPG Paints Arena. I'll be there covering it for DK Pittsburgh Sports. Hopefully you'll download the app to follow along. And the lineup that's going to go out there it's the lineup you would normally see in this setting. It's going to be Sid. It's going to be Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, Erik Karlsson, Rickard Rakell, everybody except Brian Rust of note, because Rust is going to be out for a couple of weeks, the team made known yesterday. But I've seen the roster that's going to be fielded, and it's going to be otherwise who you'd think would be out there. Now, I say that, and within what's being fielded, there are some pretty interesting names among the youngsters. Ben Kindle is going to play Avery Hayes, Philip Hollander. On the back end, Harrison Brunick's getting yet another game. Sergei Murashov is listed as being one of the three goaltenders within the game group, along with Tristan Jarry and Artur Shilovs. Given that Shilovs just got the entire game in Buffalo a couple nights ago, I can't see that he'd be getting action tonight, but who knows? More likely, you're going to see some split between Jarry and Murashov, or just Jarry, because this is the last opportunity to sharpen him up for what I'm sure is going to be a start Tuesday night against the Rangers in Manhattan. But from the names that I've already mentioned here, there's going to be some element of Sid and the kids to this. This subject came up yesterday up in Cranberry. Jose Negron was reporting for us from up there, and Sid was asked, what does he think about the way the camp has gone so far around him?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you watch the games and, guys are playing for spots, and great to see, young guys, playing great hockey and trying to earn their spot on the team.
Sid also was asked specifically what he's seen from Kindle, the top pick the Penguins had in this year's NHL draft.
I think just he's got a lot of poise with the puck, a lot of speed. Those two things probably stand out the most. I think he's using his speed well. He's finding guys. He distributes the puck really well, and he seems like he's confident. It doesn't seem like it's been too fast for him or anything like that. To this point, he's done a great job. So sometimes it takes time to adjust to all that. It seems like with every game, he's getting more and more comfortable.
Fitting into that same theme, Sid was asked about Dan Muse and the way that he's carried himself.
He's really organized. I think he's got a pretty clear picture of how he wants us to play, and I think relaying that to us. So, it's been really organized. We got a ton of guys, probably more guys than we've ever had as far as camp's concerned. So, probably not easy for first-year coach having to manage all that. So, I think he's done a great job of just getting us on the same page and trying to get our identity and the way we want to play, relayed to us clearly.
I'm not going to take anything profound from any of that, but it's easy to see from the way that Sid has been in these group settings, even some of the stuff that he said going into camp about his excitement, his genuine excitement at being surrounded by some younger players, a younger supporting cast, that this whole thing's off to a pretty promising start, even though it hasn't yet started. What needed to happen in this camp? Well, two things, really. One, some of these children needed to show some talent, not just pluckiness and stick-to-itiveness and whatever. They needed to show real live speed, skill, and, symbiosis within a winning setting. So as you heard Sid suggest, when you have half a dozen of these players still hanging around, and in contrast, someone like Danton Heinen getting waived yesterday and I had told you on the previous episode I wouldn't be regretting that at all, then some of that's starting to feel real. The other thing that needed to happen in this camp, and Sid brought this up on his own as well, there needed to be a system, and there needed to be a clear system. And that was the emphasis that Sid had on what Muse is putting in. They're not looking to reinvent the sport. They're looking to compete hard, minimize chances, reduce time and space for their opponents, and B, I'm trying to think of a nice way to put this. Let's just say a whole lot badder, in the good sense, than they've been. Knock some people down. Show some fire, show some pride, support each other, and do all of that in fairly tight quarters. It sounds like all of that is A-OK by the captain to date. When we come back, J1Q.
Hey guys, if you're planning to see a concert or a Penguins game, once the NHL season starts, use the Game Time app to get your tickets. You can snag new ticket deals before anyone if you set it into app alerts. The app is easy to use. No surprise fees at checkout. You can see your seat view before buying, and you're getting legit tickets delivered on time. If you're not much of a planner, you can get last-minute deals on tickets right up to the start of an event. Lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app and enter the code DK Penguins in your app profile for $20 off your first purchase.
Today's J1Q comes from Craig. It's a good one. He says, DK, the Penguins have been acquiring talent for a couple of years now, and based on all responsible accounts, 3 or 4, or maybe even up to 6 prospects seem ready for the NHL. And still, it seems that the sentiment that's out there is that the Penguins aren't going to be very good this season. Well, if the prospects are good and they're not Rico Fata or whatever, then isn't this when the team improves? Again, I like this question. I'm gonna cringe every time poor Rico gets lumped into this. Fata was not a prospect by the time he came to Pittsburgh, and Fata wasn't exactly the problem with those teams, or that team really, because we're only talking about 1 year that really seemed to tear apart our hockey souls in Pittsburgh, judging by the way people still cite them 20 years later. If you want to talk about who the young players were on that team, and you want to keep this real, you're talking about a certain goaltender named Marc-Andre Fleury, a defenseman named Brooks Orpik. And it's funny how many people forget that season opened with Mario Lemieux on it. I am here for all eternity as someone who covered that entire season as the beat writer for the local newspaper to constantly try to set all of that stuff straight. Now, that said, should the Penguins be better if 3, 4, or 6, to repeat your numbers, of these prospects were to make it? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. And that's because it's going to take them time to assimilate. Should they be made of better stuff in that event? Yes. Should they be better positioned to accelerate this broader Kyle Dubas process? Oh, wow, yeah. But does that mean that they'll be a better team in the standings, in the points columns? No, not necessarily, because whoever it is going to have some sort of non-linear progressions. They're going to have their slumps. They're going to have their bouts with lack of confidence. They're going to have to deal with these giant arenas for the first time. They're going to have to deal with some NHL veteran on the other side, testing them physically, challenging them mentally. They're going to get embarrassed. They're going to have to ride on charter flights with living legends after they just cost the Penguins a game. I think you get the idea here. It's not just about the talent, certainly not when it comes to rookies. They've got stuff that they need to go through. And I'm sure that Dubas and his staff, in trying to put together this opening day roster, against the Rangers, even with a temporary spot up front being opened up by Brian Rust's injury. They've got to be mindful of that. They've got to be mindful of putting way too many of these kids out there at the same time. Not because of some, Mike Sullivan-ness to their thought process. It's just you want to do what's best for them. I appreciate the question, Craig. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. Don't forget to check out my written coverage of the game tonight. There will be a lot of that coming up in the next few days, including from on location in Manhattan. And we'll be back with another one of these on Monday.